Imagine Earth, 540 million years ago. It's a quiet planet, almost empty. Life is simple, slow, and mostly microscopic. Then, suddenly, in a flash of geological time, an evolutionary Big Bang, the planet explodes with life in every imaginable shape and form. This is the story of the Cambrian explosion, arguably the most creative 20 million years in the entire history of our world. It is a mystery that baffled scientists for centuries and a moment that forever defined the future of life on Earth. For over 3 billion years, life had been, to put it mildly, pretty boring. Sure, you had single-celled organisms like bacteria and archaea, and eventually, some very basic soft-bodied multicellular life. Think simple sponges or jellyfish-like creatures drifting aimlessly. They were the pioneers, but they weren't exactly rewriting the rules of existence. Then, around 541 million years ago, something switched on. In what amounts to a geological blink of an eye, just 0.5% of Earth's entire history, nearly all the major animal groups that exist today burst onto the scene. We're talking about the ancestors of insects, crabs, starfish, snails, and even vertebrates like us. The fossil record, which had been sparse and simple, suddenly became crowded with complex, diverse, and often bizarre-looking creatures. This sudden appearance was so abrupt that it deeply troubled Charles Darwin himself. He called it an inexplicable mystery in his book on the origin of species. How could so much diversity appear so quickly, seemingly out of nowhere? It appeared to contradict his theory of slow, gradual evolution. For Darwin and the scientists who followed, the Cambrian explosion was a giant, glaring question mark in the story of life. The first major clue to solving this mystery wouldn't be found in a lab, but high up in the Canadian Rockies. In 1909, a paleontologist named Charles Doolittle Walcott was riding his horse when it stumbled on a slab of dark shale. Being a fossil hunter, he took a closer look. What he found would change our understanding of early life forever. He had discovered the Burgess Shale, a fossil bed of almost unbelievable quality. It was a perfect snapshot of a Cambrian seafloor, preserved in mudslides that buried an entire ecosystem almost instantly. The preservation was so exquisite that not just hard shells, but soft tissues, guts, and delicate appendages were all fossilized in stunning detail. For the first time, scientists had a clear window into what the world of the Cambrian explosion actually looked like. They weren't just finding shells, they were finding whole creatures. Creatures so strange and alien they seemed to have been designed by a science fiction writer. The Burgess Shale revealed a world teeming with life forms that defied all expectations, and it became the Rosetta Stone for understanding this incredible evolutionary event. Let's meet some of the stars of this Cambrian show, the weird and wonderful creatures that populated these ancient seas. First up, the iconic trilobites. You've probably seen their fossils. They were arthropods, relatives of today's insects and crabs, and they were the armored tanks of the Cambrian Ocean. With their complex eyes and segmented bodies, they dominated the seafloor, scuttling around for food. There were thousands of different species, making them one of the great success stories of early life. Then there was Anomalocaris, which literally means abnormal shrimp, and this was the Cambrian's apex predator, a giant for its time, reaching up to a meter long. It had two large spiky grasping claws in front of its mouth to snatch prey, and a circular mouth lined with sharp plates. It was the T-Rex of its day, a formidable hunter in a world that had never seen one before. And then, we have my personal favorite, Hallucigenia. This creature was so bizarre that for decades, scientists couldn't figure out which way was up. They initially reconstructed it, walking on its sharp spines with tentacles waving uselessly in the air. It took 50 years to realize they had it upside down. Those legs were actually defensive spines on its back, and the tentacles were its legs. These creatures weren't just animals, they were evolutionary experiments, nature throwing every possible body plan at the wall to see what would stick. So, what caused this sudden burst of creativity? Why then? It wasn't one single thing, but a perfect storm of environmental and genetic factors. First, oxygen. For billions of years, oxygen levels in the atmosphere and oceans were very low. But leading up to the Cambrian, they rose dramatically, finally reaching a critical threshold. More oxygen meant more energy. It allowed for larger bodies, more active lifestyles, and the development of complex tissues and organs. Life finally had the fuel it needed to get big and get moving. Second, the dawn of predation. With creatures like Anomalocaris on the scene, a new evolutionary pressure emerged, the arms race. For the first time, animals were actively hunting other animals. This forced prey to evolve defenses, hard shells, spines, camouflage, or the ability to burrow and swim faster. Predators, in turn, had to evolve better eyes, claws, and brains to hunt them. This dynamic feedback loop rapidly drove diversity and complexity. Finally, there was a key genetic innovation, the evolution of Hox genes. Think of Hox genes as a master genetic toolkit for building bodies. They are the genes that tell an embryo where to put its head, its tail, its legs, and its arms. The evolution of this genetic toolkit gave nature a way to a silly experiment with new body plans, rearranging parts and creating new designs with unprecedented speed. The ingredients, oxygen, predation, and the genetic toolkit were all in place. Evolution just hit the accelerator. The legacy of this 20 million year-long creative frenzy is all around us. In fact, it's inside you. Every major group of animals alive today, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, can trace its fundamental body plan back to an ancestor that first appeared in the Cambrian seas. The chordates, our own distant relatives with the first primitive backbones. The arthropods, which gave rise to insects, spiders, and crustaceans. The mollusks, ancestors of snails and octopuses, all of their blueprints were drafted during this explosive period. If you look at the tree of life, you'll see its main branches all sprout from this single point in time. The Cambrian didn't just create a bunch of weird, ancient sea monsters. It established the fundamental architectural plans, the phyla for the entire animal kingdom. We, humans, are just one highly modified branch on a tree that has its roots firmly planted in the mud of the Cambrian seafloor. We are the descendants of one of those wild evolutionary experiments. The Cambrian explosion is a powerful reminder of evolution's incredible creativity when the conditions are right. It shows us that life isn't always a slow, gradual march. Sometimes, it's a frantic, chaotic, and beautiful explosion of innovation. It was nature's greatest innovation spree, a time when the rules of life were written, broken, and rewritten in the span of a few million years. And the most amazing part, we are the living proof that some of the wildest, most improbable experiments can lead to incredible success. The story of the Cambrian is the story of how we, and all the animals we share this planet with, came to be. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible chapter of Earth's history with me. What other evolutionary mystery do you think we should dive into next? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the deep past. See you next time.